What's up, guys? This iceberg will be analyzing some of the more notable views on the meaning of life. I normally get right into the content real quickly, but I think this video topic warrants some information up front. I want to start this by saying I'm not basing this on my own political or religious affiliation or any ideology, and I will keep this as unbiased as possible, focusing on factual information when and where possible. It's also important to note that this is realistically impossible to fully explain, and we may be unable to fully comprehend a true meaning of life. But before I have another existential crisis, let's get on with the iceberg. These are ranked loosely by search volume, but I've rearranged some of them to be a little bit more fitting. Anyway, let's get on with these grossly oversimplified concepts. Theism. This entry, put simply, is to follow your preferred God's will. It is often stated that religion can be a source of much of the world's great wars, at least on the surface level. We really don't know what happened behind the scenes and who was pulling the strings. But on the other side, theism has brought many great things to the world, so there can be a lot of good contributed to it as well. Each God's personal beliefs, agenda, and goals can be different, so instead of including countless religions, I'll include them all here. Cynicism. Cynics believe that an individual's purpose is to live in agreement with nature, rejecting others' views on what is important to self. The predominant desire for many people is to strive for wealth, power, and sometimes fame. The cynics choose to decline pursuit of these things in lieu of a simple life, free from possessions and the responsibilities and consequences of them. Each person forms their own thoughts on right and wrong as a self-sufficient individual. Darwinism. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Charles Darwin, the man that became known for his contribution to the field of evolution. From these works, several other notable contributions have been made, such as the Darwin Awards and Darwinism. This postulates that species' meaning is simply to reproduce and do whatever is necessary to pass generations forward. I think this is a very straightforward meaning of life and is perhaps the reason why we are all still here today. Liberalism. Liberals will typically believe government is necessary to a degree, however they hold their own individual liberties to the highest degree. So while they understand and respect the importance of government to serve and protect from harm, they do recognize that government can corrupt. In these cases, one's own safety, value, and protection must be placed in their own hands to proceed forward in any meaning in life. Pragmatism. This belief places high value on experiencing hardships, analyzing the results and consequences, and utilizing the information to formulate the best possible outcome henceforth. However, the individual's outcome does not matter so much as the outcome of humanity at large. Pragmatism believes that whatever brings the most value to the most human beings over time is the best path to take. Platonism. Not surprisingly, derived from the philosophies of Plato, who valued studies in mathematics and learning in general. The meaning of this entry is a sole pursuit of knowledge. Platonism posits that in life there exists something known as pure form, which is something that neither exists in space nor time. It is completely intangible and non-physical, however, it is knowable. It relies heavily on ideas or concepts instead of events, and knowledge of these pure forms is the meaning of life in Platonism. Nihilism. Nihilists are almost synonymous with pessimists. In any situation in life, the nihilist will come up with any number of inherent flaws that will prevent success of the intended goal. This same belief passes directly to their meaning of life. There are an infinite number of reasons why we, as frail, unintelligent human beings, would never find a meaning, or there may not even be a meaning at all. It's all random coincidences and we're just a result of them. Nevertheless, the nihilist views human beings as having a tendency to be dissatisfied and always seeking something more, which could very well be argued as true. We are insatiable creatures to a degree, so if there's no meaning, just do what you wish throughout life. Stoicism. Stoics believe that one should be free from desire for pleasure and wealth, as well as free from the fear of pain or loss. To do this, they believe you must put your immediate emotions aside and choose to live your life through reason and rationale. They believe that in order for a wise person to become a sage, you must act rationally while not violating the laws of nature. Confucianism. This interesting philosophy adopts a very altruistic view by establishing others in the process of establishing yourself. In this belief set, you're advised to cultivate a specific type of virtue known as Ren, which is the feeling you experience when taking care of your children or parents. Your main purpose is to fulfill your duties to others while living an ordinary life. Hedonism. While this may be one of the more self-centered of all the entries in this chart, I believe that nearly everyone acts in this manner from time to time. To be hedonistic means to seek immediate pleasure and avoid suffering. This can be simple pleasures like eating, dancing, or listening to music, all the way to more despicable acts of mankind. All of these can be hedonistic in value. However, to be hedonistic is to follow your pursuit in pleasure and avoiding pain at all times. Existentialism. Existentialists believe that we are born with an inherent existential anxiety about the uncertainty and sometimes meaninglessness of our lives. So, to find a meaning, existentialists must decide on their own personal values and take the appropriate actions to fulfill them and live according to the standards that they've set. So in a nutshell, determine your passions or interests, make decisions, and work toward them in a positive, forward manner. Humanism. This belief set posits that human beings are the only ones that are responsible for the fate of our species and our world at large. Therefore, since people are the primary caretaker of our world at large, we should prioritize people, ourselves, and everyone else. It's like when you're advised to put on your own airplane safety mask before placing it on your children. The caretaker must be able to provide for the lesser abled individual. If the caretaker is not prioritized, they may not be around to take care of the lesser abled individuals. Act in self-interest and common good. Idolatry. I think this warrants a spot on this chart as it really seems to have become a valid thing these days. We'll see someone fawning over somebody, treating them and seeing them as royalty or an almost godlike status. This can be seen in many relationships as well as fandom of various entertainment and sports industries. Many people would be willing to lay down their very life in order to please someone else. This is a very dangerous road to go down, but it's still what many people consider their primary purpose of life. Solipsism. To be solipsistic means that the only thing that truly exists is within your own mind. The first recordings of this belief included the following. 1. Nothing exists. 2. Even if something exists, nothing can be known about it. And 3. Even if something could be known about it, knowledge about it cannot be communicated to others. So the meaning of life by this belief can only be known by your own mind and not in relation to other beings. For instance, some psychologists believe that newborn babies are solipsistic. When infants cry because its parents are not around, they believe that because the parent is not within sight, they stopped existing. It's only later in life that children learn from this by observing others and reject their natural solipsism. Epicureanism. Instead of seeking immediate pleasure like the gluttonous hedonist, Epicureanism is about the meaning of life in pursuit of sustainable pleasure, which leads to a more long-term state of satisfaction, tranquility, and freedom from fear. While you still seek materialistic pleasures, you are willing to work for them. Carpe diem, seize the day. Free yourself from pain and go get what you want out of life. Determinism. To be deterministic means that you follow a belief that all events happen as a result of previously existing and determined causes. And since everything in life is already predetermined, your only option is to accept that everything is already set in stone. What's crazy to think about in this case, that there would be no free will. And despite every wacky and outlandish idea that you can think to do, it has already been decided that you would do it. All we can really do in this is accept that fate has us locked in its grasp. Natural pantheism. Pantheism at its core is a belief that everything around us is comprised of an all-encompassing God. Nature, people, the universe, everything is God. Therefore, this belief posits that we should live in balance with all that exists. Nothing is more important than living in harmony with nature, not prioritizing one thing over another. There's also a branching belief in Aztec philosophy that has had the same belief of balance and accord. However, it was their belief that life was simply a transitional phase and we should keep our world and environment just as we entered it, so the following people entering this phase can experience it the same way. Einstein Philosophy. I'm sure that much of this belief is deriving from other belief sets, but I think Albert Einstein has had enough life experience to have a valid point that is surmised adequately on a specific purpose. In several letters that he sent his son, Einstein wrote that mankind's greatest ability is to think and create something from nothing. He states that upon this act, one can find true happiness. I think many artists and creators can agree with this as well. Utilizing the gift we've been given to create something that originated in your mind is a very significant concept to me. It's really the reason behind my online moniker, Maker. Daoism. This fascinating belief focuses on finding meaning in life through what they call Wu Wei. This basically asserts that you can use this in a process of doing an action without forcing it. It will come off in a natural action without real intention. As in, if you're looking for it and trying purposely to attain it, it will never appear. And when you let go and finally achieve Wu Wei, you are able to find the Tao, which translates to the way, or it could be perceived as a meaning of life. However, the Tao cannot be understood with any explanation or any forms of communication. It can only be understood through finding and experiencing it yourself. Absurdism. An absurdist would examine the validity of a question like the meaning of life. In their mind, there is no clear way we could possibly formulate a question that could fully encompass the magnitude for its meaning. It's just too massive of a question to expect to understand the answer. The human mind itself is biological technology that's really beyond our scope of understanding at this time. To expect to understand the reason behind everything? That's a lot. Legalism. A legalist believes that people are inherently selfish and cannot be expected to behave morally on behalf of humanity instead of oneself. Thus, a strong government system should be set in place for people to enforce a morally righteous system. From here, we can ascertain that legalists strive to acquire skills that would make themselves valuable to the system by learning practical skills that can benefit the society at large. Kantianism. Kant's ethical belief states that one should act in such a way that if everyone were to act in that manner, society would benefit. Another method of determining the morality of a behavior according to this belief is how you interact with others. If you essentially use someone by interacting with them as a means to an end, or if you are treating them disingenuously to receive something beneficial to you, you are being immoral. Put basically, do as you would have others do to you. Subjectivism. Commonly attributed to René Descartes' "I think, therefore I exist," this belief set asserts that the meaning of life is different from person to person. This depends on your own individual preferences and goals. The more someone achieves their own desired goals, the more they have found their meaning in life. Logical positivism. Also known as logical empiricism, it postulates that the only thing that should really matter to us is something that is verifiable fact. What you experience and learn from your own life is the only thing you should base your direction, meaning, or purpose upon. Without the given knowledge that each of us have learned through our journey, life is meaningless. According to this belief, life has no meaning until you give it one. Aristotelianism. Many people live their lives according to a belief that being a good person will yield good results. Karma will return to you and bless you with a fortunate life. However, this philosophy believes that just being a good person is the true reward. This is the goal as well as the reward when you can be good simply to be happy without having any expectation of having some other benefit or result. Mohism. The Mohists believe in complete equality for each and every individual, with their concept of inclusive love. Just like the previous entry with being a good person to be a good person, this belief states that when you are good to others, you are being good to yourself, as we're all just different sides of the same coin. With this complete equality, all people's needs are as important as your own. Quietism. Quietism is similar to Absurdism in that you reject the pursuit of knowledge of any meaning of life. However, it reflects on the confusing nature of the language and communication used to pose the question as far as the definition of the words life and meaning. It's far too vague of a question using our vastly primitive method of communication with too many variables and outcomes to really expect a valid answer. Thus, Quietists refuse to ask the question as it's a fruitless endeavor. Freemanism. The name for this one is in reference to Morgan Freeman, who gave a brilliant performance through a number of movies, but one in particular had a brilliant quote about the meaning of life that has not been fully encapsulated within these entries. He states in the film Lucy, "If you think about the very nature of life, I mean, from the very beginning, the development of the first cell divided into two cells. The sole purpose of life has been to pass on what we learned. There is no higher purpose." This could be a very valid meaning of life, to accumulate as much knowledge as you can and pass it on to the next generations.